Okay. All right. So warm welcome to everybody, to wherever you are joining us from. I have realized that greetings are better left time zone unhinged. So welcome everybody from wherever you are. We are very happy to invite you to have you here join us for this seminar series from GloBIAS. It's about large language models for image analysis. And today we have a very nice talk planned for you. However, we start with a little piece of information that Krista Watter is going to share with us. Krista, please tell us.
Hi, I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ashta. So I would just want to briefly introduce what GloBIAS actually is at the moment. So we consist of around 40 volunteers, one community manager, that is myself, and we have 12 steering committee members. And our aim is to launch a non-profit association for bioimage analysts this year. This association is meant to foster knowledge exchange between its members, develop a curriculum for bioimage analysts, and create and maintain repositories with training materials. And as well, we want to consolidate standards for bioimage analysis. We will do this by regularly organizing in-person and online events. And at the moment, we are supported by a grant of the Zuckerberg Initiative, and the grant is hosted by German Bioimaging. And now I also want to tell you a bit what the aim of our seminar series is. So we want to provide a dynamic platform for bioimage analysts. In a survey we ran beginning of the year, that was something most people actually wanted to see. So we try to make this possible now. We want to enable the community to stay up to date with the latest development in the field, foster community interactions. And the seminars are designed to cater to intermediate and advanced analysts by focusing on practical high-level content that extends beyond basic instructions. We would also like to thank the Broad Institute for providing help with the infrastructure. We will record the seminar, and questions might be later transferred to ImageSC. Thanks, and I hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Krista. And thank you for letting us know about this fantastic initiative of GloBIAS that actually brings all the image analysts all across the world together and, exchange experience and discuss the interesting topics that are coming up, one of which is coming up very soon towards you. So today we have a fantastic talk by Caterina Fuster-Barceló. Caterina is a postdoc at Universidad Carlos III de Madrid. She actually has a background in telematics engineering and cybersecurity, but for her PhD, she moved towards biomedical engineering. Currently, she is carrying out her postdoctoral work in the lab of Arate Munoz-Barrutia, working towards bioimage analysis. She actually has a great knack for teaching and outreach, and she's a very active member of the AI for Life project, as well as the GloBIAS community. Like we already mentioned to you earlier, we want this session to be interactive, so please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box. A lot of the questions can be answered during the meeting, but if not, we would actually continue the discussion on image.sc. I hope you know about image.sc. If not, please feel free to check out that resource. It is very, very useful for bioimage analysts specifically. All right. Well, with that, warm welcome, Caterina, and please go ahead. We are very excited to hear your talk today.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Is that working? I guess so, right?
We see it not in the presentation mode, but
now
we see it properly. Thank you very much.
Great. So first of all, thank you very much, Jasta, for this great presentation. I think I have never been presented that in such a great way ever. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to GloBIAS for letting me have this opportunity to present here the Bioimage Chatbot. And welcome everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're connecting. And let's start. Well, I've already presented me very well. I'm gonna mention that I'm also part of other projects such as DBMJ, which is a Fiji plugin for bioimage analysis, the bioimage model zoo, which I'm gonna explain a bit to give you a bit of context of the bioimage.io chatbot, the bioimage.io chatbot itself, of course. SamJ, which is a new plugin for doing image segmentation with SAM-like models in Fiji. Of course, I'm part of the AI for Life community and group and working group and everything, which like we are like a very big family. And I'm a volunteer in GloBIAS. Also, if you're interested in anything that I'm going to tell you today or something similar, I'm going to be in Milano in the I2K in October. So you can find me in person there if you want to chat a bit. So let's get to work. I don't know how much I want to have to explain large language models because we had a great talk last month by Robert Haas. He was already explaining large language models and gave you a bit of well, not a bit of an introduction. I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction. He gave a great talk. So as you know, this seminar series, the three talks are about large language models, and I'm going to present you one of them. Well, an agent of a large language model. As you may know, a large language model is a deep learning, an artificial intelligence model, which does what a deep learning model does, to grab some data as an input and output some data as an output. The data that this LLM gathers can be text, images, can be speech, and in many different forms. The usual way to find this data in LLMs is usually text, sometimes images or speech. And then you have an LLM, which is this model that will process this data and output another type of test, for example, performing some task. I want to do like a parenthesis here, which I want to say that it's not the same an LLM, which is the model, than an agent. An LLM would be, for example, GPT. For example, GPT-4 is the LLM. And the agent would be ChatGPT, which is what you use to make this conversation. For example, Alexa, the one from Echo Dot from Google, is also an agent for an LLM, but instead of being with text, it's with voice. So we can find many types of agents that what they do is to call these LLMs. So then you have a lot of tasks that you can perform with LLMs. Some of them are being trained on, and some of them are emerged because LLMs sometimes have this capability, so, which is a capability that has many foundation models. That is that they emerge new capabilities. For example, I'm going to talk about ChatGPT sometimes because I think it's something that many of us know. That you might not have trained GPT for sentiment analysis, but if you share a tweet and ask if the tweet is positive or negative, it can tell it to you because it has many emerging capabilities. So these capabilities that have LLMs, the ones that have been trained on and the ones that are emerged, are very, very useful. But can they be useful for bioimaging? I think so. Robert told us last week, and I'm going to continue telling you all the advantages that LLM can have in the bioimage analysis world and ecosystem. So even though there are some challenges currently that LLMs are facing, in the first place, we have, for example, knowledge cutoff. If you are using ChatGPT and ChatGPT was updated, for example, in July, and you have a publication, an article in August, and ChatGPT has not been updated since, ChatGPT won't have this knowledge, won't have the ability to know about like these great experiments and advancements that you have made, because there is this knowledge cutoff, and we would have to wait for OpenAI people to update ChatGPT and to have this knowledge. So this is one of the limitations of some current LLMs. Another challenge is hallucinations. I think that this is something that you might have experienced a lot if you have been using ChatGPT or other agents, which is that many times the agents and LLMs don't have the ability to know what they know and what they don't know. So the problem happens when there is something that an LLM doesn't know. They are not able, they don't have the capacity to tell you, I don't know this answer, I cannot respond to this. So they do some fake answers. For example, if you're interested to know who's the IP of a group, of the research group or something similar, and they don't know how, they don't know who is this IP, they will do the LLM or the agent will do the search to look for the IP. And if they don't find anything which says specifically who the IP is, it will probably take the first name in the web page of this research group and say that it's the IP. So here's how we find these kind of hallucinations. So this is one of the problems of LLMs. Then it can have some bias also, depending on how has it been trained on. There's also this story that there was a bot, a Twitter bot that was trained in Twitter, and responses were being used to train all over again. And I think it was in one day that the bot was already racist and homophobic and all this, because if depending on the data that you're using to train, it can have some bias towards one topic or another. And then you have poor reproducibility. If you're using ChatGPT for bioimage analysis and you ask about a certain workflow, for example, and for example, I have Asta near me asking the same question in ChatGPT, probably we both will get different answers. And that's not very reproducible for a lab, for example, that they want to do the same job. So these are mainly the challenges in using LLMs. So one of the key focus for us was how to make LLMs more reliable, to retrieve information and to give information to the user without having these problems. So we started developing the bioimage chatbot. Now it's an article that it's in Nature Methods, and it's a collaborative effort with a lot of people. I always say that great people is what does great work. And here I had the opportunity to work with great people, with Juan Lu, Gabriel, Arrate, and Wei. And we did the bioimage chatbot. To explain you a bit of this, I'm going to give you a bit of context on how it was born. So we all are part of the Bioimage Model Zoo community. The Bioimage Model Zoo, or Bioimage.io, is a web page which is a repository of deep learning models. It's a repository of deep learning models basically for bioimage analysis. You can find deep learning models for image segmentation, colocalization, registration, object detection, and many things. The bioimage model zoo is community driven. I think that one of the most important things of the bioimage model zoo is that it works thanks to the community, because people is interested in this and collaborate in this, not only, for example, programming the web page, but in the models. The bioimage model zoo contains bioimage deep learning models, which people from the community can upload. The special thing here is that it's kind of win-win situation. If you are a developer and you are developing deep learning models, you will want people to use these models and of course cite your work because they have been using your models. So what you can do is to take your deep learning models and upload it to the bioimage model zoo repository. And the other part, what you can do is that if you are a bioimage analyst, if you are a biologist, a life scientist, and you have data that need deep learning models to run with your data, you can go to the bioimage model zoo and download these models and use them. So as I say, it's a win-win situation. Everyone who uses the bioimage model zoo wins something. So of course, the bioimage model zoo is open source. You can visit it and check the code and everything. And I think it's very useful, yeah, for what I commented. And we think that models should be public, reusable. We use what we call the specs. So all the models follows more or less the same format. This is like a key feature for us. It's very important thanks to how can we consume these models that are in the bioimage model zoo. Community partners are those tools, those software that are able to download and use those deep learning models. We call them community partners, are simply different tools or software, such as Zero Cost DL4MIG. Maybe you have gone to some workshops of it because very famous, DeepImageJ, Fiji, Elastic, IC, QPath. all of these tools or softwares are able either to produce models that are able to be loaded into the bioimage model zoo, or to consume these models, to be able to run them. So this is where the chatbot was born. Because as you may think at this point of the presentation, that everything sounds a bit new and maybe it can sound a bit overwhelming if you didn't know what even the bioimage model zoo is. So we first started the bioimage.io chatbot as a kind of help desk, as a kind of assistant to be able to navigate the bioimage model zoo. So what we did was to have an assistant to be able to run through all the documentation of the bioimage model zoo and the community partners to be able to retrieve it into a more digestible format and help the user navigate all these tools, all the models, all the formats, and everything. So the most important thing here for us was what we found as a key feature, which was the retrieved augmented generation. As I told you before in the beginning, with the LLMs, one of our focus for this was to be truthful in our responses, to avoid hallucinations, and to make sure that the information was totally reliable. So we focused a lot on this, and this was our first work elaborating the chatbot. So using the retrieved augmented generation, what it does is to augment the knowledge, extend the knowledge of the LLM with what we call the community knowledge base. What we do is that we grab all the documentation from the bioimage model zoo and community partners, and we retrieve the documentation. We had to, of course, firstly, organize this documentation in what they are called chunks, which are pieces of information that they are kind of self-contained and obtain like in paragraphs that the information that they contain is enough to have some information. This information is then embedded with a model of OpenAI and then saved in a vector database. And then from the other part, I think you can see my mouse. Here we have the user. With the user, we do the same. We have the query of the user, we embed this query, and then we have it as in a vector database. So what we are going to do to make sure that the information that we're retrieving is totally reliable and truthful is that instead of looking for some random documentation on the internet or looking through the documentation, is that we have these vectors and we have our queries that are converted into vectors. So what we are going to do is to do kind of a similarity check to look for what is more similar between your query and documentation to retrieve the information. I make sure that the chatbot, the information that it gives you is totally reliable. So we have our LLM that treats with all of this. So at the end, what we have is an answer that is totally reliable and has minimal hallucinations. So this was our first work that we did in the beginning and one of the key features of the bioimage.io chatbot. So this is how currently our chatbot looks like. Now it's a bit far from a chatbot that only retrieves information. We have many more capabilities than this. I said that great people does great work, and we have such an amazing team of people working with a lot of motivation on this. So we have all of this. We have more capabilities. Apart from the retrieving information, retrieving documentation and books, as you can see from this part here, we are also able to consult online databases and service through calls to API. Here you can see, for example, the documentation that I told you about the community partners, but we can also consult online databases such as the Bioimage Archive, the Bioimage Informatic Index, BioTools, the Human Protein Atlas, Image SC Forum that, as I commented, that is really useful. And all these, we're doing it through the calls to an API. And then we have the capability also of running artificial intelligence models, such as Chatbot, that I'm going to explain more in detail later. The thing is that what we were thinking was how to make this easy for the user who's using the chatbot. Because for us, it's going to be always the most important thing to make the user the center of this and to make life easy for the user. So we grouped these capabilities into 3 different assistants. The first one is the bioimage IO, the bioimage seeker, which we called Melman, because all of these are giraffes, as you have seen. So the bioimage seeker is intended to be an assistant to search in documentation. So the idea that we had in the beginning with the bioimage IO chatbot would be with the bioimage seeker. So it's able to look in documentation from community partners and also to do calls in the API to retrieve information. For example, we have here an example that it's searching in documentation for bioimage.io. So how can you improve a model to upload to the bioimage model zoo to upgrade its discoverability in the bioimage.io? And it will say, so reading the documentation that we have in the bioimage model zoo, it will retrieve what is important for you for this question. So this way you avoid to have to go to all the documentation, read all the guides, so you have the specific documentation that you were needed. Another of the capabilities that we have is this consulting of databases, which is also in the bioimage seeker in Melman Assistant. So through the calls of APIs, we are able to ask about, for example, the human exploring the human protein atlas. So you can tell me about PML protein and show me some cell images. It will retrieve the information for you. So you don't have to go to the website, do all the searches and all. So this improves the search in a way that it's much easier. You don't have to familiarize with the web page and everything. The next example that I have is with the Bioimage Archive, which is also part of the AI for Life project. And we can also do queries to the Bioimage Archive. So you ask about, for example, some specific data, and it will retrieve all this kind of data that you were needing from the Bioimage Archive. The second assistant that we have, called the Bioimage Tutor, Bridget, it's intended to be an assistant for some more technical questions about bioimage analysis and artificial intelligence. The documentation that this assistant has is more like bioimage analysis books, deep learning books, microscopy chapters, and a different number and a lot of books that we have carefully chosen to have in the knowledge. So I remember that when we programmed this, once we had this programmed and we were testing it with Arrate, she was testing it and doing some tests and asking some questions that maybe some student could ask to her. And she was amazed because it says, after all the experience that I have, the bioimage seeker, the bioimage tutor, Bridget, is responding as I would, and it's just a chatbot. So it's amazing the capability that it has because it's very, very useful. And then the third one is the bioimage analyst, Nina. This one is amazing. It has the capability of generating and executing code. Not only saying generating code like to correct code as you would use for ChatGPT, but inside it generates and execute code. So what it does is to, for example, run self-post on your data. This is not intended to do for the moment, for example, batch processing. If you have 100 images that you want to run self-post on it, don't do it with the chatbot. You will have to write a lot. Maybe try it. I don't know. You discover a new and emerging capability, but it's not intended for that on the moment. But what you can do is that if you want to try, if for example, Cellbot works on your data, instead of having to download the software, install it and everything, or maybe with ImageJ having to do everything, you just have to mount a folder and ask, please segment this image with Cellpost, and it will do it for you. I'm going to show you in the demo, don't worry. So, and it's able to do much more, a lot of other things. And there's a lot of work in process to do other things with ImageJ and so on and so forth. So all of this is being done thanks to what we call the extension-based mechanism for bioimage analysis. All these capabilities that I've told you about, such as the documentation and books, the RAG, the Retrieval Augmented Generation, consulting APIs, and all these, are mounted in what we call extensions. So we have an extension for each of these things, or for example, also for web search with DuckDuckGo. And this is how the chatbot works inside. For example, recently we developed a new extension for microscope control that I'm going to show you now. But there is place for a new, more of these new extensions to be built. This extension mechanism lets us program new extensions, new functionalities that you can imagine. As for example, this one with the microscope. This is a microscope that Wei has in his office, and he has connected it to his computer and connected to the chatbot. So he is able to move it and to take screenshots with the microscope in real time. So this is a thing that they are currently working on, and I'm really amazed by it, really. So what is the good thing about this extension? That these are very easy to build. You can build it in Python or JavaScript and then deploy it through the ImageJ plugins and IFA services. If you have anything that you would like to do an extension of, at the beginning, we were talking about also reproducibility. If you have, for example, a workflow to do, which is not very complex, that is something that you can do with the chatbot, program it in Python. What you can do is to elaborate an extension and have an extension dedicated to do this workflow because you want to do it, and then share it with a colleague and make sure that your colleague is going to do exactly and reproduce the same workflow as you. So through the extension of the chatbot, you can do so. Developing these extensions is very, very easy, and you can use it and do the extensions that you can imagine of. If you're interested in this, contact us or ask the chatbot, right? So this is currently the bioimage.io chatbot. And also one thing that I didn't comment is the part of the user. As I told you in the beginning, one of our key centers of the bioimage chatbot is to make life easier for the user. So when we are talking to the chatbot, we have a capability of giving the user, giving the chatbot the user profile, because it's not, for example, the same to ask a question about bioimage model 2 if you are a developer of deep learning models, or if you are a life scientist. The answer should be really different. For example, if you know how to code or you don't have any coding expertise. So you have the ability to set this profile in the chatbot. Also, we introduced the chatbot conversation contest to improve responses, the user's query, and also we elaborate the kind of a preliminary response so that this response is also fitted into the chatbot to improve the final response that it's going to give to you. This way, what we do is that what we do not trust the user is with prompt engineering. Because you have heard a lot about prompt engineering. It's something that not everyone knows how to do. So this way, we elaborate a bit the answer in order to improve the response. So which are our claims with this chatbot? Firstly, what I told about the Retrieval Augmented Generation is that we make sure that the information that you receive is coming from reputable sources, that the information is true, and we avoid hallucinations. This is, again, one of the key features of the chatbot. You don't want information that is not true. In fact, our chatbot has the ability that when the chatbot is not able to find something, it tells you that it cannot find it. And it also suggests you where you could find this information. And that is very, very useful. Also, when you ask a question, you can click to like find more or see more to see how the chatbot has retrieved the information to make sure that this is actually what you wanted. Then, so even though we've used proprietary LLMs from OpenAI, we are aware of that is the private software. So we have maintained an architecture which is prepared to do a future transition to open source LLMs if necessary. We are always investigating and studying LLMs to see what works best with our chatbot, to see if there is at one moment one open source LLM that could improve our performance. Then the extension-based design empowers the image community. So this is related to the next one, which is collaboration. We invite contributors. We want the collaboration of the people working in the bioimage analysis world, because this is what empowers this kind of research and makes that everything is more complete. And talking about contribution, which are the ways in which you as a scientist can contribute? Of course, you can develop extensions of whatever you can imagine, as we have already commented. You could also add the documentation of your tool to the chatbot and use it as your assistant. There is a way to do it. It's in our documentation. And of course, again, you can ask the chatbot how to do this. If you have a tool with some documentation and you would like to use the chatbot as an assistant to provide the user the documentation in a more digestible format, you could add the documentation of your tool into our chatbot and make the users use the chatbot. Totally free. And then please, 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 as Sabrina Carpenter would say, give us feedback and your user experience. There are buttons, thumbs up, thumbs down, and different ways to give that feedback in the chatbot itself. Because for us, it's very important to see when are you giving us, when do you receive a good answer? If you know about a topic, you answer something and you see, okay, this answer might not be the best, tell us, because for us it's very important. We keep this information, and after that we study how to improve the chatbot thanks to that. And always you can send PRs and issues to our GitHub project if you found that you need to tell us something or you want to contribute to the project. And then the important part, right? How can you access it? We are currently delivering the bioimage chatbot in 3 different ways. The first one is the way it was intended to, as a kind of a help desk, as a kind of assistant to the bioimage model zoo. So you can have it as a small window in the bioimage model zoo webpage to help you navigate the web page. You can ask about models, for example. Instead of using the search bar, you can directly ask the chatbot. It's able to go through all the models that are available in the bioimage model too and tell you things about them. So in the future, you wouldn't even need the search bar. You would just communicate with the bioimage IO chatbot. If, for example, you're looking for a model which is based on Stardust, you can ask the chatbot, and that chatbot will tell you where you can find it and how to use it. So you have everything in one place. The next way to access it is through a web browser. You can access it, and this is how I'm going to do the demo. You can see it. And here's what I think. There are a lot of feedback buttons and all. Currently, there is, I think, a limit of 20 queries per hour, which is, I think, huge amount. So you won't have many problems with it. And then you can also access it through GPTs. We have added it as a GPT in the ChatGPT store, or what it's called. And you can access it there. So it's easier for you if you're used to use ChatGPT. So this is the way to access it. And I wanted to add this slide because working in this project, I learned a lot of things. I am part of the AI for Life teamwork, and one of the work that I do is user support. So I'm always writing a lot of documentation and talking to users and all. So I think I learned a lot of things working on a chatbot. One of them is to improve the documentation. We usually do the documentation that it has to be human readable, but now we needed to have it AI processable. So the chatbot is able to retrieve correctly the information. That means that the more self-contained and explained the information, the better, because all the information is there, and you will make sure that the answers of the chatbot are more reliable and more precise. The next thing is work on prompt engineering. You should know at these stages of life and year to 2024 that it's not the same asking a question to Google to ask it to an LLM. You have to be much more precise. You have to give context. You have to tell your life to the LLM if you want to have a really good answer. Don't write PG error and 4 numbers to the chatbot. Give it information, explain what you're doing. This is very important if you want to improve your responses. This is applicable to the bioimage chatbot and to any LLM that you will use. And also, the third thing is that we have elaborated documentation of the chatbot, of course, following the first point. And we have a lot of documentation and usage examples and everything. But do we actually need it? Of course, we have embedded the documentation and it's on our database. So I hope that you don't have to consult this documentation. Just ask the chatbot about the chatbot. For example, I have to, when I'm giving talks, I'm doing some demos, and I like to have these demos a bit changed from one talk to another. I think of some examples on how to consult the chatbot and show its capabilities. But one thing that I do is to cheat and ask the chatbot what to ask the chatbot. And this is very, very useful. So now we can do a short demo. I'm gonna ask it a few questions here, real life, now, no cheating. So you can make sure that I have not invented everything. And after 2 questions and the self-pose one, we can have the questions. So here you see the chatbot. He says, "Hi there, I'm Melman. I'm happy to navigate your biometry tools and everything." Here's where you would select the bioimage assistant. I didn't comment it, but the GPT is an assistant that will help you developing the extensions. Is to deploy them so you can test them there. Also, we have a lot of help buttons and everything. So also the edit profile. I can say I'm Caterina. I'm a postdoc at the university, bioimage analysis, data scientist. 5. Okay. So let's get something. Let's get, for example, about the bioimage archive. Could you find a study related to self-segmentation, for example, segmentation in the bioimage archive? I hope it works. This is very real life at the moment. So you can see what it does all time. And this is really nice. And it says, I found a study related to segmentation bioimage archive. The study is titled Support of Label-Free Self-Segmentation of Diverse Lympho provides code and image support data serving. Well, you can click on more details. It will tell you what has it done to find this. And then it says you can access the study here. And it even gives us the link to this data set. So it was very easy, right? Asta, you will have to change your workshops now when you're giving workshops about the bioimage archive. So another, for example, what are the top tools for image registration available on the bioimage information index? So this is what you're seeing now are the API calls. So it's using the BI extension and it's giving us some information here. Some registration, MATLAB with image processing toolbars, this one, and registration shop, and we can check one of them. And it's using here. And we can also, for example, ask some things about, you have learned today about the bioimage model zoo. Maybe you didn't know what it is, so you can ask, what is the bioimage model zoo? And it will consult the bioimage model zoo documentation. And it will tell you what it is and say where you can find this information. And this is actually the documentation of the bioimage.io. And you will find all the information here. And then, for example, we can go here and we can go to the bioimage analyst Bridget to do the cell pose example. I have prepared it, okay? But we will do it now. So here we have all these buttons, okay? So the one that is important for us now is the mount files. When you're mounting these files, you're mounting it in the browser. Like we don't get access to these files. This is mounted in the browser. You will give tell what they want. You will give access to this folder for the browser to read and write, so it can read the image and also save the image that you have generated there. So it says to you, I see that you have a file named nuclei. Wow. What would you like to do with this image? For example, you might want to visualize it, reprocess it, or run a specific analysis on their model. We're going hardcore. I'm going to ask to segment it directly. Could you segment this image using cell pose? Let's see. It's loading the image. This will take a while. It's loading the image, it's displaying the image to see it. Printing the image documentation. Preprocess the image to match required shape. It does it everything. Imagine that you have to do this yourself. Okay, so displaying the image, generating final response. The image has been successfully segmented using cell pose. So here we have the original image and the segmented one. Maybe we can ask, could you change the lookup table to get to the segmented image? So we can see it more clear, the different nuclei. Yes, it's working. It's usually working. So we see it. It gives us an error, but I think it's not important because it gives us the image. And I think that you don't know you can't see my folders, but if I go there and I go to the folder, I have 3 images. One, which is the image I already had. The second one, which is, okay, let's ask. Could you tell me the content of the mounted folder? Let me see if this works and I can show you. Okay, it hasn't actualized, but I have in my folder the 3 images, the one with the different lookup table and the segmented one. And we could say, can you count the number of nuclei of the segmented image? Okay, load segmented image, level the segmented image, count the number of nuclei. Okay, 49. We can count them and see if it's true, but I will trust it for now. Not gonna count them now. It's gonna be a lot of time. It's 49 nuclei. So I think that would be all. That was the presentation. And you have the link to try it yourself. And yeah, I think it's time for the questions.
Thank you very much. Oh my God, this is very exciting, Caterina. Wow. All right. Lovely demo. And I see a lot of questions are pouring in. So, and just also for everybody to know, in the background, this meeting has been very well supported by Esteban, Beth, and Maria. So thank you all for supporting all the work in the background. And now we have a lot of questions, so let's just pick some interesting ones to start with. And for that, let's ask Esteban. Come on, tell us, do we have an interesting question there? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, we actually have lots. Thank you, of course, Caterina, for the talk. It was amazing, and
Thank you.
I'm always excited to see these new tools that may or may not automate us out of a job, but it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, I found it too.
So the first question actually was the first question, but I think it's good to start with that. Is Julian asked, hi, thank you for the talk and the great explanations. So if we have just fine-tuned a deep learning model for image segmentations, can we or should we publish it into the bioimage model too?
Okay, this is a bioimage model zoo question related, but I can answer it. If you have fine-tuned model, you can, of course, and you should upload it, even if it's just fine-tuned. You will have to follow the specs to do it, because as you have seen, there are a lot of community partner tools, so that we are able to run the models in all of these tools. We all follow the same format of the models, but you can find assistance if you need it, and everything is well explained. But of course, you can, even if it's only fine-tuned, upload the model to the bioimage model zoo. We will be very happy with it.
Okay, so there are a few questions that I think have been answered. For example, how to upload data for the different extensions like Nina to the chatbot. You just showed how to mount the tools. One related question to that is, Estella asked, can these tools be used for stacks of images? So in the mounted folder, can you use like multidimensional files?
Okay, I have not tested it. I don't think about channels, but I think that you might be able to try it, mount it with different images. Maybe you have to have not in like batch processing, like not a like one after the other, but you might be able to do it over all of the images if they are not a lot. This is done and done in the browser, so it won't have the capability of if you would have a GPU, for example.
Yeah, that was actually one question of mine that I can include here, is if there is any limitation on the size of the images that we can like mount.
Not that we have faced, but of course, for sure,
Yeah.
there is.
Something that I think was kind of shown during your demo, but so Wei Chen asked, do we need to choose from these different chat assistants when we ask the question, or will the system automatically assign the suitable one to your question?
The system, what we'll do is to find the most extension suited to your question, but you have to choose the assistant. Let me show you here. So we are here, right? So you have all the assistants, you know, for what is each assistant. So if you go to Melman, you know that it's generally for documentation and this kind of documentation, even if it's documentation of data sets. Here, if you go to advanced options, here you can see all the extensions that this system is using. So we have the bioimage archive, the informatics index, the docs, and much more. So the chatbot, what we'll do is to know which is the best extension to answer your question. But yes, you have to choose between which of the three assistants you need. But what you can do here that I have not tested for this is, I think this is a work in progress, okay? Is it working? Okay, it says me that it's working, but no. There's a work in progress that we're doing to tag the other assistants in a yes. Yes, it says Nina. So it worked. Nina, would you tell me something interesting about microscopy that I might not know being I just invented this question. This was not prepared. So yeah, the thing is that you can have to select the assistant, but now there's this capability in which you can tag any of the other assistants in the conversation. So for example, if you are in the analyst because you want to run something, but you need some information, yeah, it's like this, but you need some information from Nina, from Melman, you just tag it and it will answer to you. I hope you're happy with the answer, Esteban.
Yeah, absolutely. If I think we still have a few more minutes for some more questions. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I will continue. So Yoser asks, can we use Elastic over any other software to segment images using the chatbot?
Not for the moment. Okay. Our work in progress is that in some moment we want to be able to run any of the models of the bioimage model in the chatbot, but not for the moment.
And I imagine that's exactly one kind of question that you can ask the chatbot, right?
Yes,
Would
exactly.
it be able to tell you, no, we can't do this for at the moment?
We can check it. This is very brave of
Doesn't
me.
get better than this, huh?
Can we use Elastic, for example, to segment images using the chatbot? Let's see. I'm a bit nervous. You can use Elastic to segment images.
Yeah.
But not using the chatbot.
Yeah.
But could we do it with, let's change
Could you
the
do it?
answer. Let's go here. Could you segment images using Elastic? The thing is that Elastic is a software, it's not a model. So we are able to run models, not softwares. That's the thing. So it's not mounted. Okay, so it's not able to process this. Maybe if we ask somehow differently to Melman, it's able to tell you that it doesn't run softwares. It runs models. For example, let's see, I have never asked this. It's calling the BA search. So no, it's not able to know this. Never ask these kind of questions. The self-awareness is something that LLMs have a lot of problems with.
Well, this prompt is also a little bit too special, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think it too. Okay.
So I will continue. So here someone asked, can you ask the chatbot for some like more complex things, like giving the average size of all the segmented cells, the average intensity, or like other kinds of measurements, I imagine?
Yes, I have tested this and you can do it.
Cool. And Florian says, many thanks for the great talk. And in regards to the chatbot showing images for specific proteins, how accurate is the result of the bot? And is it also possible to get mismatches? For example, if a user uploaded the wrong description of their images?
Wait, let me read this again. Showing images, how accurate is the result of the chatbot? Wait. Showing images from specific proteins. Well, the chatbot, what it does is to do an API call to the database. So if the database, if you want to retrieve some information from images from a database, and the database contains the information in the title and description about this image, it will do it. If this database is wrong or mismatched or something, they will fail the chatbot because the information that is retrieving is wrong.
This is, I think, a very interesting one. Peggy asked, if we want to use a model pre-trained by us, should we mount the model or upload it to image? Like, should we mount the model to the chatbot or upload it to bioimage.io?
Okay. This is kind of two different questions in one, as I say it. If you have a pre-trained model, what you have to do is to upload it to the bioimage model zoo according to the specs, as I have already commented. Currently, with the chatbot, we are not able to run all the bioimage model zoo models in the chatbot. This is something that we are working on. But if you have a model that you have pre-trained and you want someone to use it, or you yourself want to use it, if you upload it, you will be probably able to run it through one or more of the community partners of the bioimage model. So you will be able to run it without any coding.
Awesome. And also regarding the mounting of files, are there any data formats in which the images have to be, or like a range of formats that the bot can interpret?
I'm not 100% sure, but I have tested with PNG and TIFF and it works. Okay. Which are the usual formats.
And yeah, so again, someone asked, new question. Can you run two models and compare the metrics, like two models at the same time and compare the metrics?
You can currently only run CellPose.
Hmm.
So you cannot run two models. Currently, it's only CellPose, but you can ask for things like comparing metrics. For example, if you ask the chatbot about the size of the nuclei or things of the nuclei, it will be able to compare and do the thing is that the chatbot, what it does is to generate Python code and executes it. So anything that can do this Python code, it will be able to tell you.
Amazing. And I think we don't have any more questions apart from how fast will we lose our jobs thanks to the chatbot.
I can answer this. I don't think it's about losing fast our job. I think it's making our job faster.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I agree. And I have a few questions actually, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So I was interested about how you said you could create extensions specifically for an application or like a tool you develop. And so do you see future method publications specifically being accompanied by a chatbot extensions like this to assist the deployment by new users?
I hope that there are future publications with the chatbot regarding this extension mechanism. Currently, we are working on one or two publications which will use the chatbot to create these extensions and all. So if anyone wants to collaborate with this, I think it's a very good opportunity. A lot of colleagues of mine always ask me, could we do an extension of this? Could we do an extension of this? And I like, try it.
Yeah.
It's kind of factable.
And my final question is, when you get answers specifically or especially for theoretical questions about bioimage analysis, can the chatbot tell you, like, can it cite where it mainly got the answer from?
Yes, I think that if you ask where does the information come from, it says to you. And if you click to more details, probably it will give you where does the information comes without you having to ask it.
Nice. We have more questions coming in, but we are close to the time limit, I think.
Indeed. So thank you very much. And thank you, Esteban, for picking such nice and interesting questions for us and animating that discussion. We do have more questions coming in, and that is indeed the idea. Keep them coming. We shall be moving the discussion to image.sc. Please check out the resource and follow this discussion. There's a GloBIAS tag, and I think you should be able to follow the discussion from there. And with that, once again, big thanks to Caterina for this fantastic talk, for everybody else, for the nice discussion. And well, you all know, this is a series of seminar. We already had the first one. This is the second one. And within the LLM series, there will be one more talk, fantastic talk coming up. So look out for that and do join us next time. Thank you and see you all.
Thank you, all of you. It's been great presenting. And thank you for the questions.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.